Ta-da! Weedy Weekend, number 82. 82, and it'll be the last one before Christmas, because Christmas Day is 1 week from now. I'm not doing Weedy Weekend 83 on Christmas Day. I'm going to be busy. So are all of you. You don't need news on Christmas Day. You need family. That's all you need. So, this will be Weedy Weekend for a couple of weeks, but I got a packed show for you today, and I hope you enjoy it. It's weedless today. I won't be doing any cheersing because my son is a few rooms away. Doors closed, but being safe. He's kind of sick. He's sitting in the other room, and him and my other son are having lunch. Let's get started with Weedy Weekend number 82. And the first story, I usually try to start off with local news, and the first story is that the government task force appointed by the government to study the legalization of marijuana has come back and determined that there should be sales of recreational cannabis should be limited to those 18 and over. So and we'll talk about some other recommendations which I think are quite interesting from this task force. This is the task force that is giving the information to finalize the final pieces of the legislation that will be tabled in spring 2017. By the time it gets all its readings and becomes law, is very likely 2018. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Will it happen? I'll let you know that I have some skepticism over it. I think he might try to use it as another political tool to get another 4 or 5 years as Prime Minister, but we will see. The Canadian Medical Association, CMA, previously had recommended setting the age at 21 with strict limits on quantity and potency until a person's 25. But the task force said higher age limits would simply drive young consumers into the hands of the black market, something the government hopes to actively discourage with its push to legalize pot. I hate them using it. Legalize cannabis. Provinces and territories should, however, be provided with the flexibility to set their own restrictions. And that's the way it's been with liquor. That is a great thing. The whole thing of this is to choke off organized crime, to cut the sales to organized crime. A very good point here, though, also from the task force. This is a really good read, and it's a long read. It's a good story, and I hope the government takes a lot of these recommendations in play. They're even talking THC limits only at younger ages, but this is a nice one. Cannabis should be sold in storefront locations, the report said, but it recommends a ban on co-locating cannabis with alcohol and tobacco products. I think that's great. A blow to some provinces like Ontario, which had hoped to sell marijuana in its government-owned liquor stores. It also said cannabis products should be sold in plain packaging. So, I totally agree with plain packaging. Don't make it fancy. Don't make it special. If a person wants it, they'll buy it. A person isn't going to buy it because of the packaging. But cigarettes shouldn't be in special packaging. It should be in plain packaging. It shouldn't attract somebody. I get that. That's the old government watchdog thing. You have to kowtow to the people that expect to have their hand held. A lot of people want the government to hold their hand. That's why our governments are so big. But the fact that this task force has said it should be sold in storefront locations shows that the dispensary model needs to stay alive. Yes, it goes on to say that they should continue to enforce the laws on cannabis. And okay, enforce the laws as the courts have described them. So if a dispensary opens and are selling recreational, no. I would agree to shutting them down. The laws have not been recognized for that yet. However, a totally medically driven dispensary under current laws, and the description of those laws by the R.V. Smith case, Supreme Court of Canada, is that storefront locations are a requirement. And this task force comes forward and says even for recreational, it's a requirement. So cool on them. Cool on them. Cheers to that. The next one. Cheers. The next story comes from the Daily Caller, which is how marijuana sales are driving down beer sales. It's a really good article. I like it. We're becoming a healthier society. We're understanding that we can still get that euphoria and nice feeling and calmness and everything that we get from alcohol, but from a plant that doesn't give us the poison that goes in our system, the wrecked kidneys and livers, the possibility of overdose that you get with alcohol. All that goes away with cannabis. So, quoting from this, while marijuana retail sales opened up these markets at different points of time, with all three of these states now having fully implemented a retail infrastructure, the underperformance of beer in these markets has worsened over the course of 2016. This is perhaps not surprising given that U.S. government data for the state of Colorado, Washington, or Oregon all show consistent growth in cannabis incidents among 18 to 25-year-olds coupled with declines in alcohol incidents. People are moving away from the poisons and into the plants. It's just a beautiful move. It's a beautiful move. And I applaud it. No golf clap, that's a real clap. Let's move on with High Times has a story about a marijuana pill for concussions. It's a pretty good story. I'll read the beginning. The headache and body pain that accompany a concussion, the all too common result of the routine shots to the head taken by football players, it's important, this angle, are the result of inflammation as brain cells swell following trauma. As it happens, I've said this, CBD, a cannabidiol, one of the many active compounds in the cannabis plant, is known to have anti-inflammatory properties. I'll put a little brackets in there, huge anti-inflammatory properties. There are numerous former football players who swear by CBD as a tonic for football-related injuries, including head trauma. This goes on to talk a lot about how we can look at marijuana differently as a health substitute. The next story will segue into an issue that causes, but an issue that I think I can explain. So please bear with me. I'm trying to follow an angle. I myself take Pura Vida CBD organic pills, certified organic, beautiful, 10 milligram. I take a couple a day. If I could really afford it, I'd probably take 3 a day. But talk about anti-inflammatory. I just had a tooth pulled, and it was a bad pull. It was a difficult pull, and I was swollen up like this. I kept the CBD in me, and the pain almost disappeared from the swelling. The swelling went immediately down. Anytime I have swelling, inflammation, anything, I use CBD, it's almost gone. It works better than any anti-inflammatory like ibuprofen, which hurts the kidneys. So, no side effects. Great story. Way to go, High Times. Good to read. Check down below. And while you're checking down below, click the thumbs up. Click the subscribe. Remember, I like to bring this to you. The next story, slamonline.com, is a segue from this because it's the talk. It's actually about a basketball player, Chauncey Billups, who has said that some of his players he would prefer smoke marijuana for its ability to improve their play. And therein lies the rub. This is a short story. I encourage you to read it. I'm not going to quote anything from it. But He says that his players have bad anxiety, and boy, when they smoke something, they get rid of that anxiety and therefore play better. So that is not performance improvement. Performance improvement is something that makes your muscles stronger and work better than they would without that performance improvement. When you take pain away, yes, it improves performance, but that drug's intent was not the improvement of performance, it was the return of previously abled performance. So it's not increasing that person's abilities, it's bringing that person back to a previously felt ability prior to injury. That's where we're having difficulty in both the basketball, football, in those sports arenas where marijuana is supposed to be the medicine that goes forward, that takes these people off of their addictions to these painkillers and the problems it causes for their bodies and ability to think, move into something that makes them healthier. And other people say, yeah, but the other side of the coin is it's making them better at their job, and that's unfair to those who don't want to take it. No, it's making them as good as they should be without pain. That's what it's doing. It's not improving a person's performance. Believe me, if they have no pain and they get high before a game, they're not going to do a better job. This comes down to something I've said very often. Somebody made a comment on one of my strain reviews, wow, this guy sounds so high. And I just said, well, first of all, I sound that way because I have a speech impediment. I've had it since I was a young boy. I often sound high. I may sound high right now. I'm not. But second of all, as someone who takes cannabis for pain, I seldom feel the euphoric effects because it's being targeted on the pain, not on the brain. You know what I mean? Peace and cheers. I love this story. I'd love to know what you think about it. I don't think marijuana is a performance enhancing drug. It's a pain removing drug, therefore returning a person to previously abled performance. Next story. This story I shared a little while ago, a couple of days ago, and we've had a lot of discussion. Sorry about that sun, but I like the sun today. I need it. I need to go out. We've had weeks of cold weather, and today is around zero. It's windy. It's probably still cold out there, but it's so much better than it used to be. We had minus 30. Zero is beautiful, and we're talking Celsius. Zero is beautiful. Anyways, next story. Cheers, everybody. How can cannabis treat fibromyalgia and offer relief to patients? I will always share something about fibro because I have it, but also because I know a lot of my followers, some men, a lot of women, have fibro or are watching because they have a partner or a family member with fibro. I'm going to read a little bit about this because it says, what exactly is fibro? And I want those who don't understand to understand what exactly it is. First, it's important to recognize the symptoms of fibromyalgia and understand how it can overwhelm the people it affects. This disorder often creates symptoms of chronic pain, severe fatigue, joint stiffness, insomnia, intense headaches, digestive problems, and cognitive issues such as anxiety and fog. It is not as rare as one might think. Statistics show that over 5 million Americans currently suffer with fibro, many of them being women. It seems to be a woman-mostly disease, or maybe because it was always treated as a syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome, that men were scared to say it. I think as time rolls on, we will find that it's neither. What could be the cause of this debilitating disorder? Now, I reported a couple of years ago that I said that fibro was caused by a depletion of endocannabinoids in our system for the last 4 generations while it's been illegal. when it was in our bodies for the previous 10,000 years. This kind of follows along this case. Although the cause of fibro is widely debated, one individual conducted extensive research regarding it and proposed a theory that clinical endocannabinoid deficiency, CECD, could be to blame. It is exactly that, because it seems almost every aspect of fibromyalgia is repaired, at least slightly, with cannabis. It goes on to talk a lot about it. It also gives you, please, all of you, look further down in this article, and while you're doing it, thumbs up, subscribe. It also gives what are the best strains, and I do agree with them. For fibromyalgia, there is Harlequin, Critical Mass, Critical Mass. I have that. Granddaddy Purple, great one. Girl Scout Cookies, Bubba Kush, huge. Blueberry, a great one. Blue Dream, another good one, and Canatonic. Those are the best for fibro. There are others. Watch for anything with purple or pink in the name. And what does the future hold? It's a really good story. So move on to it, my friends. Learn about fibro. Share it with those you know who have it. Very, very important. And we're getting near the end, my friends. As I've done every week, is I tried to do Cannabis 101 from Leafly, bringing a few more of their stories to you, those rookies that need it, and those who maybe want to share with other people. I hope you continue to enjoy these Cannabis 101s. They're not that important to people who already have the information. So skip by it if you feel like it. This first one from Leafly is Introduction to Terpenes. A beautiful, beautiful story all about terpenes, how they react to you. THC binds to cannabinoid receptors, concentrated heavily in the brain where psychoactive effects are produced. Some terpenes also bind to these receptor sites and affect their chemical output. Others can modify how THC passes through the blood-brain barrier. Their hand of influence even reaches to neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin by altering the rate of production and destruction, their movement, and ability of the receptors. The terpenes are almost, and maybe we'll even find more important than the chemicals they're supporting, such as myrcene. Myrcene is one found in much of the purples, much of the anti-inflammatories, and is usually high in CBD. Plants have a lot of myrcene. Myrcene is also found in almonds. It's found in mangoes. And what it does is knock down the blood-brain barrier, allowing higher absorption of THC. So you don't need as much of your medicine. There are other ones like carotene that gives gastroprotectiveness, really helps your tummy. There's other ones like limonene, which elevates mood. So it's not all the CBD or the THC. It's the entourage effect that I have often promoted, is the understanding that all these different parts of this plant are meant for different parts of our body, and whole plant medicating is so important. Sometimes, yes, very pinpointed, I need CBD for my anxiety, so I'm going to take it in a concentrated form. But I recognize that I still need THC. I still need those terpenes. I still need myrcene, carotene, limonene, those other enes. So let's move on from terpenes. And as I said, it's a great story. Check it out below. Next 101 is how much butane. Actually, this isn't the 101. I got it mixed in, but it's from Leafly. How much butane in BHO is too much? And it's not just talking about butane, it's talking about all the different volatile type extracts. the different type of solvents that are used to extract THC, CBD, and these terpenes from the THC plant, from the cannabis plant. What is happening in Colorado? The story is an interesting story, but instead of reading it to you, I'm going to tell you. What's happened is instead of clamping down and saying we want less and less butane in or solvent left in the medicine when you're ready to deliver it to the customer, they've actually increased the amount allowed. Colorado, on January 1st, 2017, Colorado will raise its state-regulated limit on residential levels of volatile solvents allowed in cannabis concentrates. Yes, they're raising it. They're not raising it. Well, they're raising it because current pharmaceuticals that also use these things to get the medicine out of other plants and other type distillation processes have much higher allowed amounts. You're allowed a higher rate currently in Colorado of butane in the pills you take of, I don't know what they use butane on, so I can't tell you what, but in your pharmaceuticals, you are allowed a much higher level of butane, xylene, hexane, whatever, in those pills, and you're taking them, than in cannabis. Cannabis was tighter, safer, and rather than forcing pharmaceutical companies to tighten up and come down to the very tight limits allowed in cannabis, they've expanded the limits allowed in cannabis to give the pharmaceutical companies better. Pharmaceutical companies now don't have to change and be healthier. I think it's a really bad move by Colorado. They should have instead said, if the cannabis medicine can have that low a solvent, then pharmaceutical companies, you've got a year or two to get your extraction processes to be at least that safe, if not safer. But no, they said, oh, cannabis companies, you can leave more butane behind now. Bad move. I'm okay with it because I always tell everybody, never mind the BHO. HHO is pretty good, it's pretty clean. But even better is RHO, rosin. SHO, solventless, heat extraction. That's the way I go, my friends, and you can get it at MMJ. And the final story. Another 101 from Leafly. It is what are high CBD cannabis strains and how do they differ from high THC strains? I am not going to go deep into this one because really it's something for you to read if you want to read. High CBD is very good for a lot of us with pain. High THC is also good for us. I don't encourage anyone to go down just one angle. There are so many angles, so many roads of discovery for all of us to find. Some people tell me, please tell me the highest THC strain you have. And I say, why? Why do you want to know our highest THC strain? Why don't you look at the strains we have, find what matches your ailments the best, and then find out how much THC it has. The amount of THC is only an average amount of THC is only an indicator as to how much of that should you take at a time. It's a dosing thing. If it's really high in THC, you cut down the amount you usually smoke. If it's really low in THC, you increase the amount you smoke so that you always get about the same amount of a dose. That's why we need to know the levels of THC. You don't just buy the highest level of THC. If that's what you're doing, then you're just recreational. You aren't looking for the pain relief. And that's why I bring that story to you. Wow, 25 minutes. It's a good weedy weekend. Number 82. Final, finished, ready to promote and push out to you, and then I'm going Christmas shopping. If this is the last one you hear from me before Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas, a Happy Kwanzaa, a Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. And if you celebrate nothing, just have a happy time. Peace and cheers. Love and harmony.